fire now, Blazkowicz! Now!
Hello and welcome to another Game of the Year Top 10 video, and today we're counting down from number 10. This is going to be number 8, and number 8 on my list is Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus was one of my most anticipated releases of 2017, and it did not fail to disappoint me. I think it tells one of the most interesting stories of any game that I've played in 2017. It really humanizes the character of BJ Blazkowicz in a way that I was not expecting at all. And if you have an Xbox One X, that is the way to play this game. It is pretty much native 4K 60 frames at almost all times. There's a little bit of a dynamic resolution scaler in that game, so it will drop down a little bit when the action gets a little hot and heavy. However, it pretty much runs at a native 4K almost at all times, and it just is a fantastic looking game and smooth as hell experience from beginning to end. I enjoyed every minute of this game. I killed a lot of Nazis, and I just think it's crazy in the year 2017 for as many good games as we got on my top 10 list. I'm talking about a Wolfenstein game. You know, this is something, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, you're crazy. You know, Wolfenstein is pretty much a dead franchise at this point, and here I am 10 years later, and I'm talking about a sequel to another Wolfenstein game that was fantastic. I enjoyed every minute of this game. I'm looking forward to the downloadable content that they release for it coming up here. And I think it's just a great single-player story. Bethesda has knocked it out of the park in 2017 presenting single-player focused games. And they've kind of recommitted, at least at the Game Awards this year, they've recommitted themselves to delivering great single-player game experiences. So, again, Wolfenstein 2 is my number 8 pick on my list this year. Highly recommended. I highly recommend you go and check this game out.
Wait!
I can hear her. I can feel her clawing her way back inside of me. Get out! Leave me alone! I've been bad. I deserve this.
Thought it was fitting because this game is the 7th entry in this long-running franchise that would take the 7th spot on my list. That is, of course, Resident Evil 7. Now, unlike a lot of games on my list here, Resident Evil 7 is one of the few games that I actually didn't get a chance to do a video review of. I'm going to talk at this one a bit more length than the other videos that you guys have been watching, simply because this game I didn't get a chance to really review it on the channel. So, Resident Evil 7 I think is a fantastic experience. I don't think it's my favorite Resident Evil game. I honestly don't even think I would put it in my top 3 favorite Resident Evil games of all time. Maybe top 5, but not top 3. And A lot of that has to do with the shift to the first person's perspective. I wasn't a huge fan of it on paper, even playing through the game. It works, but I'm not a huge fan of it. The reason of that being is the second half of this game, and sorry, spoilers, that should go without any warning here. The second half of this game almost turns into a run and gun situation where it plays more like a first person shooter. That's not what I wanted out of this game. And I also find it a little redundant that is the thing that people were complaining about with Resident Evil 6 was that it was too action heavy. And I feel like the end of this game, I was just running around shooting enemies at one point. And you're probably asking, like, why are, on this list, why are you essentially shitting all over this game, but it's your number 7 game, and we'll get to that. I thought the atmosphere was nailed 100% with Resident Evil 7. I think the atmosphere of it is excellent. I think bringing back the item management, the puzzle solving, all of that was top notch in this game. It really shows that the core team behind Resident Evil 7 had a massive love and respect for those earlier games in the franchise that I know and love to death. And that is very well represented in Resident Evil 7, and it's very clear. All of those aspects of the game I thought were top-notch and excellent, hence why it makes my top 10 list at number 7. The other aspects of it that I was a little down on when I initially played it, why it's not higher on the list, I don't think the main character is necessarily someone who stands out in the Resident Evil's long list of awesome characters. He's very much a forgettable generic character. And the storyline between him and his wife and that whole situation gets a little out of hand in a way that you wouldn't really expect, I guess. But you kind of should going into a Resident Evil game. But I also appreciated that they brought back the idea of ink ribbons, and here it's cassette tapes, but it totally works and fits the setting. I love the mansion that you get to explore in this game. It's really, really cool. Like I said, most of my complaints come with the second part of the game, or the last third of it, or whatever you want to call it. And my other complaint with the game is that there is a real lack of enemy types in this game. It is essentially you fighting either the Baker family or the Molded. Now, the Molded are very creepy looking creatures, don't get me wrong, but when those are your only enemy types and you've lost all these other great enemy types from past Resident Evil games, including generic zombies, including giant spiders and snakes and hunters, and all of these things are just not present in this game. You just have the Molded. It's a little bit lame, and I'm hoping Resident Evil 8 can kind of swing things back in that direction, because I would really like to see a larger enemy type base for Resident Evil 8. And I can even get over the first person aspect of the game if they have a more broad selection of enemy types for you to face in this franchise. It was a great experience. It was a great survival horror experience. And unfortunately, there was one other survival horror game that came out that was just a little bit better than it, and it made it a little bit higher on this list, and we'll talk about that later in these videos. But Resident Evil 7 was a fantastic experience. If you're a Resident Evil fan, if you're a starved Resident Evil fan of the older games, then you will find yourself very much at home with Resident Evil 7. So that is number 7 on my list. As you guys know, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and as always, until next time.